Manu Ginobili's name is now among the greatest of the greats at the Basketball Hall of Fame. Let's wrap up how his weekend went.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for KENS5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. And hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. Hopefully you had a great weekend. We know that Manu Ginobili definitely did. His family did. Spurs fans across the world definitely enjoyed seeing him get into the Hall of Fame. But let's go ahead and wrap up the ceremonies. What did we think about Friday's press conference, Saturday's induction, the highs, any lows? Yeah, maybe there was a low, and much, much more. And also, we're going to have a little fun buy or sell Hall of Fame edition with our guest. He is back, everybody. Rudy Campos with Sweep the League. Rudy, when are you going to get into the Hall of Fame? I think that's the next event we got to plan for.
Yeah, I would plan for it. You got to be out of the league in 5 years. I've been out of the league for, I don't know, maybe like 30-something years, so I'm still waiting for that phone call. But eventually, when they induct every single basketball player, they've got to come my way. They got to come knocking on my door after that.
He is with Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League right now. Great weekend for all Spurs fans across the world, especially Manu fans. 2/3 of the big three are now in the Hall of Fame. It was kind of a no-brainer once his career was winding down. It was just a matter of time. Came, it went. Rudy, let's start off with this. Your overall thoughts of the weekend and the Friday's press conference. Of course, then there's Saturday ceremonies. The jacket presentation by his sons. What did you think about the whole production over the last, Friday and Saturday?
It was a fantastic weekend as far as, the Hall of Fame goes. Manu Ginobili getting into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Everything from the original press conference on Friday to his memorable, and I would say memorable, speech over off the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Terrific weekend. I was seeing a lot of fans posting that was there, taking pictures with a lot of the former Spurs players, a lot of NBA players, seeing, his Argentina national team links there. It was a remarkable weekend. It was a fantastic weekend. I remember when Tim got inducted, you saw a lot of faces. You saw it was a great atmosphere, but for some reason, the Manu Ginobili induction, it was just that much better. And not a knock on Tim, but this induction just went to a whole nother level that I don't think we'll ever see when it comes to a Spurs player again.
Yeah, well, you gotta you forgive Timmy's time because that was during the pandemic, so they didn't bring anybody in, and this was the
Yeah.
first time in 2 years where they had like an audience, family, friends came and whatnot. But it was a great weekend. Yeah, the press conference. I love how Manu just showed up in t-shirt and jeans for his Hall of Fame press conference. It was very casual, which went back to how he reacted when he was nominated. A couple of years ago, or maybe a year ago, where he said that doesn't
Mhm.
change him. Like he's still going to be Manu Ginobili. I happened to be at that press conference that Friday afternoon. I got a chance to ask him. And I'm glad he saved my question because maybe I should have set it up better. Uh, but yes, I'm aware that you can only have a Hall of Famer present you. But I should have asked him, like, hey, of all the Hall of Famers you could have picked from, why'd you go with Tim Duncan? And I was sitting in my chair, Rudy. I just said, hey, why Tim Duncan? And then he tells me, well, because he's in the Hall of Fame. I go, I guess I know that, Manu, but why him? Like you could have gone with Charles Barkley, who screams Ginobili. You could have gone with David Robinson. You could have gone with Michael Jordan, his childhood idol, basketball idol. But, at that press conference, he told me that Tim Duncan, basically, in a nutshell, already, it was no Tim Duncan, no Manu Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There seems to be a common thread here. I'm pretty sure when Parker gets in, he's going to say the same thing. I'm very sure when Pop gets in, he's going to say the exact same thing. But
Mhm.
all in all, a great weekend. I also like this too, that with Manu at the press conference on Friday, they had a hard time out at 4 p.m. Eastern. He went overboard. He went in like another extra 20 minutes to take more questions. And my goodness, let me tell you, the Argentina media was there in full force. I mean, that's all you heard. And in that press conference, it was more 70% Argentinian questions, 30% English questions. But that just shows you the global impact of him. What was you were watching probably from home, Rudy, what was the fan reaction, Friday and Saturday? What were fans saying?
Fans across all social media, it was really unreal, man. The amount of fans that traveled from San Antonio. I saw a few friends of mine that I've got on social media were out there celebrating with Manu Ginobili on his enshrinement in the Hall of Fame. Fan wise, man, it was magnificent. You're gonna have some haters. There's a lot of haters out there that were saying Manu should never been in the Hall of Fame, but those are the people that only look through the NBA eye lens. It doesn't look through the actual basketball lens of things.
Hmm.
And just seeing that the fans, rejoicing, like just happy, man, because you saw them posting clips of Manu when he was playing with the Spurs, all of their great memories and moments of Manu Ginobili, seeing, his interaction with, hey, I took a picture with Manu back in the day when he was riding his bike or at the airport, just seeing all the fan posts it was heartwarming, man. It was
Hmm.
it was a great feeling. Even all the way up into I saw a recording of when Manu was giving his speech. Some fans' reactions that were there, just hearing him scream and stuff. Man, it was just a great overall feeling overall for everybody.
Yeah, he was the headliner. He went last at the press conference. He went
Hmm.
last at the ceremony. It was him. It was Manu Ginobili and the class of 2022. And also quickly, we cannot forget this. Shout out George Karl, the former San Antonio Spurs guard from the ABA days to the NBA days early. He made it a point to mention his Spurs roots, and I got a chance to talk with him at a press conference, and I caught wind during his chat, with the previous Q&A session, where he's like, I've always been loyal to San Antonio. So when I had the mic, I said, okay, well, why San Antonio? Why you have this affinity towards the Spurs? And he right away he said the baseline bumps. He remembered the old school baseline bumps when they used to be on the baseline and give opponents the business as far as heckling them and whatnot. He mentioned old management, Angelo DeRosos, for keeping the Spurs in San Antonio. Bob Bass. You know, what are your thoughts about George Karl? I mean, not only during his press conference, but Hall of Fame enshrinement, he mentioned San Antonio, or in this case, his San Antonio roots to Rudy.
Yeah, being a former Spur, I mean, doesn't surprise me that George Karl, gives much love to San Antonio at all. I mean, like I said, his ABA days were his playing days for the San Antonio Spurs, but not only that, the people that he was surrounded with back then, like he said, management, even Coach Bob Bass with, Bob Bass having issues with some Spurs fans from back in the day, overall, great guy. I mean, the Spurs organization was successful still under Bob Bass. But it also brings out for the coaching as well. I mean, George learned a lot while playing for San Antonio that helped him along his coaching career too, with the likes of the Seattle SuperSonics. And I believe he was a coach for the Sacramento Kings as well for a little bit there too. I have no problems with it because George Karl is another former Spur, and just like
Hmm.
the rich tradition in San Antonio, when it comes to Spurs players, former, even current, we respect everybody. We love everybody. Thank you, George Karl, for everything you did while you were in San Antonio.
Yeah, kudos to him and for getting into the Hall of Fame, former Spur. I always wish that he would become a Spur coach during his. I always said, like, man,
Hmm.
that would have been awesome. I always wondered if he would have accepted it, and I think he would have because he said he has an affinity to smaller markets. The Bucks. He shouted out the Bucks, the Spurs, obviously. So, and he's an ABA guy. He really was pushing forward. For everybody to not forget the ABA time and that at that press conference he was literally going down stats like, well, the All-Star game was because of the ABA. The first
Hmm.
MVP, the first league, was a former ABA guy. So yeah, and by the way, he said that he and along with Amazon Prime are producing a movie about the ABA. So that's going to be interesting to see if any old footage of the Spurs pop up, because let's not forget, everybody, the Spurs were once a former ABA team. But all in all,
Right.
it was a great weekend in Springfield, Mass. Coming up next, though, I'm going to tell you more about my experience being there. This is my first time ever going to a Hall of Fame induction, Rudy. And let me tell you, there were sometimes it was chaotic. It was sometimes confusing, but all in all, it was a great time. I'm glad to have gone to see Manu Ginobili get enshrined. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about betonline.net, your number one source for all your pro and college football needs and sports info this season. For all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week games. Look, BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check out on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. I like to see what the lines are, Rudy, for your Hall of Fame chances. I'm pretty sure BetOnline has them right now. What do you think they are?
Probably right now, I would say right around 50 to 60,000 to 1.
All right. Well, head to the website today to see if BetOnline has the Rudy Campos Hall of Fame odds, or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, recapping Manu Ginobili's Hall of Fame weekend and giving our thoughts, impressions, some fan reaction, and much, much more. Hey, but Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was the most valuable NBA player this season? Locked On and BetOnline presents the NBA Top 50 Most Valuable Players starting on September 19th. Find it on Locked On NBA whenever or wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. So let's go and continue our chat right here with Rudy Campos. He's with Sweep the League. Follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. So, Rudy, I got a chance to go to the Hall of Fame. First time ever for me. And let me tell you, you cannot not ignore the fact that Springfield is the home of the Basketball Hall of Fame, or just the birthplace of basketball, because as you drive into the city, there's this huge tower, and not as big as Tower of the Americas in San Antonio, but it's a pretty sizable tower, and at the top is an orange sphere. I mean, it's like right when you drive in, and it's to your left, and you can't miss the Hall of Fame. It's a big silver dome. It says Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame on it. Interesting enough, though, I thought it was just by itself. It's not, Rudy. It's actually connected to a strip mall. Like in the back, there's a strip mall connected to it. There's like a Cone Stove Creamery, a GameStop, like a Subway sandwich. It's connected to it. I really thought it was just by itself. So I was a little surprised to see that. But you go in, and right away, David Robinson's, area, if you will, or his little nook is kind of in the middle, like near, the main entrance. There's a big kind of circle in the middle of it, and there's like 3 basketball rims. You can test like your jumping ability. So it'll say like 5 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, like that. But yeah, there's just tons of sneakers, enshrined, gift shop. So much more. But on the outside, it looks a lot bigger than what it is in the inside. In the inside, it's small, but the outside is real big, and I think that's because of the strip mall. I think that makes it the illusion of it. But it's a very nice area. But as far as the weekend is concerned, yeah, I mean, I show up to the Basketball Hall of Fame itself, and I see the buses loading, and I saw James Borrego there. I saw Will Hardy there. I saw Chip England there. Torrey Messina there. Everybody was boarding the bus, and they took off. Now, the Hall of Fame induction, Rudy, was not actually in the Basketball Hall of Fame itself. It's actually in a different venue within Springfield, Mass. It's a place called Symphony Hall, and it's about a 5-minute drive from the Basketball Hall of Fame, and it looks like a museum. That's the best way to describe it, like a little small museum. So I'm there. I show up, and media is allowed to get on the steps of Symphony Hall. So I go out there. So I see Tiago Splitter coming in. I saw several other dignitaries come in. Like who was that guy with the Nets? Remember Rod Thorne? Does that ring a bell to you?
Yeah, Rod Thorne.
Yeah, and NBA brass. They're coming in, busloads after busload. Interesting enough, though, Rudy, Manu Ginobili did not do the red carpet walk. I thought that was a little bit of a bummer. I would have loved to see him do that, but he did not do that. So, did you think he should have done that? Walk the red carpet? Because I heard that he went through a back entrance.
God, I think for media's sake, yeah, that would have been cool to see him down the red carpet. But I mean, kind of like his career, Jeff. It's just kind of personal and low key. So I'm not shocked he went in the back door and probably out the back door as well.
Yeah. So he did not walk the red carpet, but it was just one NBA legend after another. I saw Big Ben Wallace. He showed up. Rick Mahorn showed up. As mentioned, Thiago Splitter. I saw Andres Nocioni, Luis Scola. They showed up. But by the way, speaking when I saw Luis Scola, my first thought is what could have been. Can you imagine what could have been him and Tim Duncan if he just stayed a Spur? That would have been one of the biggest what ifs, Rudy.
That's gonna always be one of the biggest what ifs. I mean, you saw what Timmy did with Thiago Splitter and a lot of those other guys, and I mean, Scola is, probably not leaps and bounds, but he's definitely better than a lot of the guys that were there.
Yeah. So Argentina definitely was in the house. Now the fans, they were fans everywhere on the streets wearing Manu's jersey, the black jersey, the white jersey. Some guy had like a shirt that was just Manu's face all over it. And there were just fans just lined up everywhere. I mean, caps, everything. Now, it is formal. Everybody, for the most part, was looking good, not necessarily dressed down, but fans, Manu fans didn't care, Rudy. They showed up in t-shirt and jeans, whatever they can to deck themselves out in everything Manu Ginobili. So the media seating was in the second floor or the middle bowl, and then there was a third balcony bowl. So I went up my way to the third balcony bowl, and sure enough, that's where the majority of the Manu fans were there. And they had banners, they had signs, they had jackets. There was this whole row that was just chanting Manu's name constantly. During commercial breaks, they're chanting his name. Coming back from commercial, they're chanting his name. And he just non-stop. And we don't want to get your thoughts on this, though. So there was kind of a negative. It wasn't a big negative, and I'm glad that the TV didn't catch this. But as I go outside to see Manu walk to the stage and start his speech, everybody starts clapping. They say, Manu Ginobili up next. Okay, hey. There were actually a little, like I would say 3, 4 maybe fans, or I should say just people. I don't know if they're fans. People that were actually booing Manu. Now, I made sure to check to see they weren't just saying Manu like that, holding the U in their voice. No. I remember one guy who was on my left. I'm walking down the stairs to go take my seat to watch Manu. They already announced his name, and he cups his hands over his lips, and he's going boo, boo. I think that was probably somebody who didn't feel that Manu should have been in the Hall of Fame. I mean, look, I'm glad the fans clapping drowned out the very, very small portion of people that were booing Manu. But you don't go to Hall of Fame and do that. Rudy, your thoughts?
No, definitely not the place to do that. And you're right. It's probably fans that figured Manu Ginobili doesn't deserve to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. I mean, that's what I'm saying. People fail to realize is that's what I said earlier when we first started Locked On Spurs. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame. People look through it through the NBA lenses. It is a Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. It's your accomplishments across all basketball, not just the NBA. I don't give a shit if you have a stellar, NBA career, but it doesn't bother me. What it is if you've got a great basketball talent, which Manu Ginobili is a Hall of Famer based off of international talent alone, not just what he did in the NBA. That's the reason why he's a Hall of Famer. So for the fans that are there that are booing, and it could be fans that, hey, you know what, I'm sorry your Pistons lost to the Spurs, when Manu had a really good series or the Nets series or whatever, they're Nets fans, whatever. But you don't go to the Hall of Fame to boo anybody. Those guys are there because they're celebrating their career in basketball. The NBA is a very big, major market, yes, but it is a basketball Hall of Fame. If you want the NBA to do their own Hall of Fame, the NBA can do their own Hall of Fame. Then you can debate whether Ginobili or anybody else gets in there. But this being the Basketball Hall of Fame, you're celebrating basketball in general, and Manu definitely deserves to be in there. Shame on those guys.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it wasn't like a big contingency of fans. And yes, I got asked on social media, like, are you sure they weren't saying Manu like that? No. I definitely checked. And this guy, he was sitting, like I said, I was going down the stairs and he was on my left. And one of them, I think he was like one of 3 or 4. He picked his head up and he cupped his hands, like I said, over his lips. And I watched him like clear as day as I'm looking at my microphone right now talking to you. It was just going boo, boo. I was like, holy moly, this is happening here. But again, that was like, a very negligible thing, and otherwise an overwhelmingly great ceremony for Manu Ginobili. But what? Really, hold that thought. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we get back, we're gonna get your
Okay.
thoughts on Manu's speech, and then play a game of basketball Hall of Fame buy or sell. We're here with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League, and we're gonna put him in the hot seat in just a few seconds. We're back right here with Rudy Campos on this episode of Locked On Spurs. He is with Sweep the League, and we're talking about Manu Ginobili's Hall of Fame weekend ceremony. So, Rudy, the speech, I thought he pretty much took us through his basketball history, from picking up the ball, walking across the street as a kid to play, basketball at the local gym or playground, to the final moments. Uh, what did you think about his speech? What did you like? What would have you have liked to hear him talk about?
Uh, okay. So the part that I didn't like, I'm gonna get it out of the bat right quick, and it's something that probably is so minute, but it just seems to me. But he didn't celebrate himself a little bit, and that's kind of what got to me. It's your moment. I understand you can brag a little bit about your career, but in true Manu fashion, which I have no problem at all, he celebrated everybody. And on one part of his speech, he said, even all the way down to the video guys, the guys that get the game tape ready. I mean, he celebrated every single person in just about every single organization, knowing that without them, there is no Manu Ginobili at all. From Tim Duncan to, like I said, the videographers who were helping him prepare for the next opponent and everything, all the coaching staff. That shows the type of person that he is, and it makes me always feel like, why can't today's athlete in general be like that? And that's what makes a person a true great of the game, and that's the type of personality that they have in Manu Ginobili exudes that kind of personality. It makes it fantastic to be able to be a fan of his. But I've never cried or anything at a Hall of Fame speech. I've never teared up at a Hall of Fame speech. But when he talked to his parents in Spanish, I did get a little teary-eyed there, because being that I've lost my dad, and my dad was a big supporter in my sports, as athletic and everything else, is I could tell, that it hit home. And it did bring a tear to my eye when that's part of the speech. But overall, it was a great speech. I've heard it already 3 or 4 times, and it still gets me in that moment every single time. But definitely the overall speech was great, and one to definitely be to remembered.
Yeah, it definitely was. Tim Duncan obviously didn't want to take the mic, even though Manu asked him if he wanted to. He said, "Do you want to talk?" He's Tim. He's like, "No, fine." But good to see Timmy. Again, going back to my question to Manu when I spoke with him on Friday's event, picking Timmy was because, like I said, no Timmy, no Hall of Fame. And sure enough, there's Timmy right next to him. And once again, helping him in a big event such as the Hall of Fame, as he did maybe in the NBA stage. Yeah, I like the speech. I like the kid stories, like when he was a kid getting walked across the street by his mom. Those were fun, and how he referred to his Argentinian teammates as brothers. He said, "You're my brothers." And he mentioned Fabrizio Alberto, by the way, who was there too. He took time to shout out individual Spurs. Now he did clarify that it's just not enough time, but Matt Bonner, he mentioned Bruce Bowen, he mentioned Tony Parker. And I want to talk to you about the Tony Parker interaction. Did you find that interesting when he looked at Tony and he said, "We knew what we had to do. We had to separate our egos"? Do you think there was maybe he was referring to something like maybe they kind of bumped heads a few times?
That, it's kind of funny you brought it up, because when I first heard the speech and even went back and looked at it again, I did see that. And it made me wonder, was there animosity behind the doors that we didn't know about, to where you have 2 really good international players, one legendary, another one who was on the rise. And it made me feel like, both guys were not alphas technically, but they wanted to be Robin to the Spurs as Batman. And I think we probably had some butting of heads, and that did come into my mind. I know you said it, Jeff, and I was thinking the exact same thing. There was probably a little something going on, but for the betterment of the team and for the betterment of the organization, they put it off to the side, and one guy dominated while the other one did it, and they didn't mind sharing the spotlight. Which again, in today's basketball world, you don't see that very often. So I'm glad they were able to put differences, if there were any, aside, and do it for the betterment of the team.
Yeah, I caught that. They joked about it, saying like the majority of the time it was Tim Duncan that was getting everything, and they had to
Mm.
laugh about that. But and I think during their playing days, wasn't there always that kind of like a storyline during the Big Three's run? Like, is Tony not passing the ball to Manu? Remember that whole thing when
Yeah,
Argentina fans were upset? So, although nothing was said, again, we're just assuming Rudy and I, but that was an
yeah,
interesting moment when he spoke to Tony. Who knows? Maybe Tony will say something at his induction about it. But that I my ears perked up when he was talking to Tony about that, saying how because he started off kind of like Tony Parker. Ugh, like we
yeah,
had to put aside our like our different our egos, I think he said. So,
yeah.
but that was an interesting moment. And then of course, he didn't, he also did tear up a bit with Popovich. He fought back some tears when he talked about Pop being there for him. But all in all, it was a great speech. Again, already archived probably on YouTube. Rudy probably seen it a billion times already, and every Spurs fan listening right now probably has as well. But let's go to play a game of buy or sell with Rudy Campos here with Sweep the League. Now, Manu's in. It's all done, all wrapped up. And likely next, barring any craziness, should be Tony Parker next
Mm.
summer. Although even that's not a lock, because next year's Hall of Fame class is insane. Dirk and
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Wade and Tony and whatnot. Although signs are likely 8 out of 10 times he's going to get in. So, okay, but after Parker, likely that will be it for the Spurs players. Obviously, coaching wise, yeah, Pop will get in and Becky will likely get in down the road. But as far as players are concerned, that might be it after Tony. So let's do a little game of buy or sell Hall of Fame style. And I'm going to rattle off some players that put on the Spurs uniform and ask Rudy if he's buying or selling, they make the Hall of Fame. So I'll start off with kind of an easy one for you. So think about it. Former Spur, DeMar DeRozan. Buy or sell, he gets in.
I am going, as of right now, career-wise, I'm saying sell. I don't think he's quite Hall of Fame worthy right now. Couple All-Star appearances, great, fantastic player, but the accomplishments aren't there for the Hall of Fame right now. Could have a great season, maybe get an NBA, but NBA MVP if that was in the cards. But as of right now, DeMar DeRozan in the Hall of Fame, I'm selling it. I don't see him as a Hall of Fame.
Interesting you mentioned that because Tim Hardaway got in. And is that the precedent now? Hardaway, unless you disagree that he deserves to be in, but I'm on the fence with Hardaway if he should have got in or
So
not.
am I.
Yeah.
It's if it's going to be a low, like if it's a class where you've got to get some people in, DeMar gets in based off of maybe all-star appearances. But
Yeah.
you're right. There's some guys in the Hall of Fame that really aren't there, but you've got to go back to collegiate days. I mean, Tim was a very good collegiate player, so a lot of things factor in. Wasn't Hardaway even a part of an Olympic squad, if I'm not mistaken?
I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of things factor in.
All right. So go to the next one. Buy or sell LaMarcus Aldridge.
Oh, God. This is a tough one for me. I think he does get in, squeaks in there. He doesn't have a lot of the accolades to get into the Hall of Fame, but I still think he might get in the Hall of Fame. Again, it's kind of one of those tough ones like DeMar DeRozan. I'm going to say yes, he does get in. He did put up some really good numbers, so I think he does squeak in on a very weak weak Hall of Fame class.
Interesting. Yeah, the class, it depends itself too. If it's a weak Hall of Fame class, so quote unquote weak, because everybody's in the Hall of Fame for a reason, then yeah, he or DeMar get in. All right, up next, this is going to be a tough one. Buy or sell Robert Horry.
Yes. I mean, you have to buy that. I understand he had, on the court, he didn't have these magnificent numbers, but But when you've made big shots, as in Big Shot Rob, getting, to get titles for Houston Rockets, San Antonio Spurs, the LA Lakers, I mean, those title teams, they all come back to one of Rob's shots that, got him a victory that helped him propel to the title. Based off of his NBA titles, I mean, he does deserve Hall of Fame status. So I think Rob does get into the Hall of Fame for sure.
Wow. Yeah. He's definitely a kind of a lightning rod for the discussion because he has titles. He has tons of
Mm-hmm.
them. But is he the man? Like Tim Duncan was the man to a certain
Mm-hmm.
degree. Manu was when Tim Duncan was already fading out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's tough. All right, here's another one for you. Buy or sell former Spurs guard Steve Kerr.
Yes, I'm buying that 100%. He's
Mhm.
probably the only locked so far that we've discussed to get into the Hall of Fame. Based off his playing career, he does have titles. I mean, again, doesn't have the stats for it. But what separates Steve Kerr from everybody else is what he's done as a coach. And, he's won titles with the Golden State Warriors. He's got the coaching, wins. The win-loss record is really good for him. I think Steve Kerr is an absolute lock 100%. When he's ready to get in the Hall of Fame, they will vote him in.
Buy or sell Victoria Messina.
Definitely on an international level, yes, Torrey Messina does get into the Hall of Fame. You got to take off the NBA lenses, people out there, and look, it is the Basketball Hall of Fame. What Torrey's done as far as a coach on the international level, again, another guy locked to get into the Hall of Fame.
I kind of cheated there. I brought up a coach when we're talking about players, but yeah, yeah, I think Messina gets in as well. And finally, this is gonna rip you apart, Rudy. Buy or
Mhm.
sell Kawhi Leonard.
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I was waiting for that to come in. As of right now, I would say you buy the fact that he does get into the Hall of Fame. There is a standard that I've talked to when it comes to basketball. I'm talking to a couple of basketball players. They've all said the same thing. Winning Finals MVP is an absolute gem in a player's career. People put the MVP of the league in high standards, but if you talk to a lot of them, Finals MVP seems to be even higher standards than a regular season MVP. He's got a Finals MVP. He's got a title under his belt. Actually, he's got two of them under his belt. Kawhi Leonard may not be playing a lot of the games right now because of injury, but based off of what he's accomplished so far, he is a Hall of Famer.
Going back to the Steve Kerr thing. So you think he gets in more of the strength of his coaching record, probably, right? Does he go in as a coach or does he go in as a player?
I think he's going to go in as a coach. I mean, he's got the player nod as far as rings go, but again, he doesn't have the statistics to get into the Hall of Fame. You can go off of the rings, but as a coach, definitely a dominant coach. So I think he gets in at the coaching ranks.
Oh man, yeah, I think so too because he has the titles. He won with the Bulls and the Spurs, so there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think his coaching record gets in. Yeah, gets him in.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's the only way. I can't think of any. I'm trying to think of his player accolades. Like he was in an Olympic squad, wasn't he? I think he was.
No, he wasn't.
He was not? Okay. But I think he was a part of an Olympic coaching squad, right?
I think as far as coaching was, I think he was there. I'm trying to go back to his Arizona days because I don't think he ever made an Olympic squad as far as Arizona days go, because they were taking collegiate players at the time. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think he did.
Interesting. Yeah, but Kawhi, I'm on the fence with Kawhi. Again, not because I, cover the Spurs or cheer for them, but I wonder if his injuries situation would set him back. He's been out of the league, practically for 2 years now.
Yeah, and that's what scares me, the injury part. But I think what he's accomplished so far in the NBA, it does get him into the Hall of Fame. I mean, you can't go down the list and say, even a guy like Andre Iguodala, who's a NBA Finals MVP, he's gonna get into the Hall of Fame. I mean, there's certain things that get you in, and Finals MVP seems to be one of those things that gets you in.
And finally, the bonus round secret question here: buy or sell? The drought will be over. Rudy Campos gets into the Basketball Hall of Fame.
A 110% sell, because they are not giving me my roses, man. I've had a stellar basketball career, not NBA career. I've had a stellar basketball career. But you know what? I can't even make the Hall of Fame in my own house right now. So until I can get over that hump, I doubt the Basketball Hall of Fame will call me.
I'm glad we're talking about this topic because it reminded me of another, what could have been another what if multiverse situation. You think Alvin Robertson could have made it if his
Yes.
career? You think he could have made it?
Yes. I mean, Alvin Robertson is one of the players in the entire history of the NBA who's a head scratcher. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, I mean, he's never going to have his steals record broken for an NBA season at all. That is impossible. I think he was averaging 3 steals a game for an entire season. That'll never be touched ever in the NBA. I mean, the quadruple double. The guy was an all-star. And I'm probably one of the few people in San Antonio that give this guy a lot of praise. I understand the off-the-court issues, but on the court, he was a menace to society on the court. I mean, this guy was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. It's a shame that things shaped out because, again, I always tell everybody go back and look at his stats and his accolades. It's insane. He was Kawhi Leonard before Kawhi Leonard, basically what it was. Yeah, he was that. And I would dare I say better. I think he was better, durable. Didn't have any trade demands, all this crap that Kawhi put the Spurs through. But yeah, interesting enough. But hey, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What did you think about Manu Ginobili's Hall of Fame weekend, from his speech at the press conference to his speech at induction ceremonies and everything else in between? Were you there? Did you go? Did you make the trip to Springfield, Mass? Let us know. And who do you think, as far as former Spurs, should be next up in line after Tony Parker? You kind of figure pops in Becky. Interestingly enough, Rudy, Becky's been nominated already a few times. She's just been passed over. So she's definitely she's been multiple. She's a multiple nominee. She just never got in yet. But as far as players are concerned, is there somebody else we're missing that should get in? Does Rudy need to start working on his Hall of Fame speech? We need to know what you think and more. Rudy, tell everybody how they can chat with you and what's going on with Sweep the League.
Yeah, on Twitter you can follow me. It's at Sweep the League. And, we release episodes every single Monday, and we just got off covering a major boxing event in San Antonio. But before I go, I would like to pose this to your Locked On Spurs crowd there. How much did Manu Ginobili mean to the San Antonio Spurs in the fact that if he decided to nenever come over, because remember, he was drafted in 99, if he never came over, do the Spurs win those titles? That's something to ponder.
You know what? I'm going to let you know now. I'm going to steal that topic. I'm letting you know right now. Do not be surprised. Yeah, if you see the title of that on the Locked On Spurs upcoming episode. Stealing this from Rudy Campos. But yeah, make sure to check out. Maybe you should come back for that one. How about that? I'll make it fair. You come back for that one. We'll do a little what if there. And yeah, subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, the YouTube page, and much, much more. Even on the Ken's 5 Plus app. Yes, everybody's listening to Rudy Campos right now on the Ken's 5 Plus app on this episode of Locked On Spurs. And thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, get up to date on all the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA is your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. So for Rudy, soon to be Hall of Famer Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.